Welcome everybody to LNH Honestly Better Mental Fitness. Travis and I were talking about, it's going really well with the one-on-ones. So we wanted to do an upgrade on that now going forward. If you need to bring your, your spouse in, your significant other, and or your kids, you can. So if that helps you, then that's fine. A lot of times that's very helpful to either have them come in one-on-one or have them come in with you and have conversations. So that's a-okay. Please do that, and whatever helps you with your mental fitness is a win. And then the other thing we talked about we had it limited to 5 sessions that LNH would pay for. We're lifting that limit as long as you are getting something out of it and you're not wasting your own time or you're not wasting Travis's time going. It seems to be moving the needle and making a difference, and that's what we're here to do. Anything to add on to that, Travis?
No, that specifically, it's been awesome, and I've been really honored to be able to do that and to be able to work with everybody. Maybe I could talk a little bit about what it is we're doing. Mental fitness is kind of like physical fitness, makes your life a little easier. When your back's stronger, when you're stronger, just you move through life with a little more ease, a little more joy, a little more fun. Difficult times aren't so difficult, and it's the same thing we're doing here. And you can think of that coaching model as the same model we're doing here. I'm not here to fix anything or tell you how to do anything. I'm here to ask you good questions, move and help you navigate whatever it is that you are navigating in life. I don't think anybody would hesitate to have a coach for basketball or baseball or whatever sport they point out things. Oh, did you notice that you look to the left more than you look to the right? It might be helpful to look over there, or whatever that happens to be. It's a similar thing that we're doing here. Working through figuring out like practices that you could do during the week, small little tweaks, small little shifts, pointing out things, talking about maybe what's behind things, giving different perspectives. That's kind of what it's about, what we're doing. The smallest shift and change can have massive impacts. And that has come up a lot. I just started to become aware of this thing that I've been doing or someone else has been doing. And just that awareness starts to shift and move and create things. It's kind of like in science and research, like if you're aware that you're being observed, then you suddenly change your behavior, and you're not being observed by anybody else, but just that awareness in your own life automatically creates shifts and tweaks from there. So sometimes small little subtle things have massive impacts. I've seen that already. I've had a lot of fun working with everybody, and I'm excited to continue to work more.
Excellent. Thank you, Travis.
Mm-hmm.
So let's dive right in.
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. I think it's morning for everyone. Good to see everybody. How are we doing today? I'd love to hear if anybody wants to pop in, if anything shifted over them, for them in their life over the last couple months, what you've been thinking about, if there's anything that is on your mind, either in your life or as a result of some of the things that we've talked about. I'll give a minute in case anybody wants to pipe in, or you can share a word. That's what we did last time. A word about how you're feeling, what your last month's been like. Any of those things or none of those things are okay. I'll leave some space so it's not just me talking if we want to do that, and then we'll move on and we'll talk into what we're talking about next.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with the key phrase last week being I'm proud of you. I know that I've sort of been doing that with my son, because I'm truly proud of the young man he's becoming. But I also, so I had a conversation with him about it, and I just wanted to make sure that he knew where I was coming from.
Cool.
And also, I wanted to challenge him in coming up with personal goals for himself, and making sure that he's proud of himself for accomplishing those goals. I know he's been pretty athletic, he's gone through some struggles with that, with his various coaches and whatnot. And I've always told him, don't do it for your coaches, do it for yourself, get that base hit for yourself, not your coach, kind of thing.
That's really awesome. That sounds like a powerful conversation you got to have with your son and redirecting him internally to what makes you proud of yourself. Right?
Yeah.
What are the goals and things in life that you want to do, that you want to accomplish? And I think that was the heart and the spirit of that. So you got it. That's awesome. I'm glad.
Yeah. So I thank you for bringing that up.
Great. Good. I'm glad that led to something good. Anything else? Anybody else have a word that stuck to them that they caught themselves using or wanting to use, or question?
I am feeling excited. I just recently started reading a book, and it's just amazing to see the, I guess we can call it coincidence. And it is about freedom, but from our brain and our, consistently conversations we have and within ourselves. So then right now, as I connected, I was like, it clicked. How exciting that it's, what a coincidence that I've been reading this book, and then we have the opportunity to take these teachings, I say, with you.
Cool.
So it's just a privilege, exciting to see how mental health is possible. And, it's a journey, but it's exciting to know that it's available and we can do it.
It's great. Thank you. Yeah, I think it is a journey, is a important thing that it's a process that happens over time, right? And we learn as we go. And I think if we were static exactly the way we are now forever, okay, I'm perfect now, I got it all figured out, life would kind of be boring, right? There'd be no more challenge, there'd be no more growth. And I think that's part of the excitement in life, is the growth and the challenge and the changing and the overcoming and all that. It's beautiful. All right, we are going to dive into the connection between the brain and the body today. We're going to jump into some science. But the goal of this is not education, science class to memorize names and states and different things like that, but to just get a bigger, broader understanding of what's going on in your body, how to navigate it. Why does it feel like an alien suddenly takes over my body and makes me do things, and then I have to go back and apologize that I did or said those things that I wish I didn't do, or whatever it is, or the things that I do wish I did that I didn't do, right? So what's going on? Why do sometimes maybe I feel hijacked by emotions or physiology or my body? What is the connection between my thoughts and the things that I feel? And are those the same things, and are those different? And why do sometimes they feel like a horse, two horses trying to pull a wagon in a different direction? How do I bring that in alignment together so that my life feels like one smooth flowing energy driving forward? Mike gave us a great analogy of, I think you said, and if I'm wrong, making decisions from head, heart, and gut, right? Like checking in with all of those. How do I navigate those, and what are some of those different things? That's a bit of what we're going to be talking about today. Think of it as a conversation, not a lecture. If you got questions, ask. Something doesn't make sense, great, bring it up, let's talk about it. And I will actually say again, listen from the bigger picture of what is being painted, as opposed to the details in the words. I'm going to give you some details just to understand in there, but the bigger picture is really what we're after in here. There's no test at the end, is what I'm saying, so you don't have to memorize your vocabulary. Okay. A short recap. We talked about why change is hard and how it's possible in the beginning, in the very first one. And then in the second one, we talked about language. In that first talk, we talked about that we are a combination of our biology and our experiences, and that these experiences that we've had in life shape us in different ways. Some of us are excited for life. Some of us are scared for life. Some of us like to do these things, and some of us hate these things. And a lot of that is because based on your experience, you know, our dogs, oh, dogs, I love dogs. And I see a dog and I like run towards it with open arms because they've all been cuddly and sweet and cute in my life. Or did I get bit by a dog and I see a dog and I have a different reaction to a dog? A lot of that is based on our experiences in life. Is anger and conflict something to avoid? Is it something I don't know how to live without? Is it a tool that I use, or is it a tool that I will never use and I will never allow myself to be angry? We talked about, you know, why change is hard. Why can't I just decide, yes, I'm never going to be angry again. I'm never going to drink again. I'm always going to do everything perfectly and then done. Great. So I'm a logical, rational human being. So that should just work. And then it flows down from my thought from there. And it doesn't quite work that way sometimes. We dove into some of the subconscious patterns, which we'll do more. You know, why can't I just decide to be this way or not be this way and then go do it? Some of the things that we've hit, and maybe some new things in there that I think one of the things I want to impress upon everyone at the moment is all of our behavioral patterns are survival mechanisms. So you might look at some things like, well, that doesn't make sense. What good comes from this, or me being this way, or I just hurt people, or I just get myself in trouble, or I just whatever it is, like this thing is no good. And there may be some instances that's true, but I think more often than not, and maybe always, I think it's actually a great question to ask, what good do I get from this? Mm-hmm. Like, why am I doing this? You know, it's a lot of time we'll use drinking alcohol, right? And drinking alcohol, it's a bad thing. It messes up my life. It's destructive. It's all those things. Yes, all those things are true. And there is a reason why you're doing it. Maybe it's at the end of the day, you are so exhausted, you've not had any joy, you can't rest, you can't sleep, you don't know how to shut your brain off, you are feeling pain, and you want to numb that. You want to not feel pain anymore, or you want to not feel joy. That is the thing that you are seeking in it. It comes with a whole package of things that are not good, but looking at, why am I in so much pain? Why do I feel the need to numb it? Why do I not feel that I can work through this? Why do I not have the support in my life that I need to move through? How and why can I set my life up in a way to experience more joy in life without alcohol? Like, those are the questions to be asking behind the behavioral patterns, as opposed to bad me, bad this. It's like, no, you're not doing it to be bad. You're doing it because there's something that's helping you survive in there. And the majority of our behavior and our brain activity is subconscious. We can only think about so much at any given moment. I think of it like, it's not that these things are invisible to us, although some of them are deeply underneath layers, but it's kind of like you're in a giant warehouse at night with a flashlight, right? You can only see so much at a time. Like, you can see like about that much. And so, you know, sure, you can be conscious of a lot of things, but you can't be conscious of everything all the time, all at once. And so as soon as you put your focus onto this other thing, well, then you stop focusing on that, and then you're back to doing that thing that you didn't want to do. And so it's exhausting trying to keep ourselves under control. And that's kind of going to be what we're talking about today, like our emotions and our body. If we're fighting against it all the time, or trying to keep it at bay, then we are wasting a whole lot of energy. And as opposed to like harnessing these things and moving forward. And then part of that, what I've talked about, like the acceptance and not judging ourselves, is actually the path to change. Of like, okay, when I judge this part of me and I shame it and I just put it away and I say, I'm never going to do that or be that or think that, it doesn't allow us to work through and honor the things that we need, that we're getting from it, how it is serving us, how it is helping us to survive on a multitude of different levels. the term NBAR up there is neurobiological adaptive responses. And I think that's a great way to look at ourselves, right? The things that we do are simply neuro, brain, biological, our body, adaptive responses. It's the way that I've learned to be to make it through life. It's how my brain and body interact and choose to adapt to the circumstances I'm in. You know, maybe you are the youngest kid, and so if you weren't scrappy and took what you needed, then you didn't get anything, right? You had to be loud and be boisterous, and so then now you're questioning, why am I so loud and why am I doing this, or whatever it happens to be in your life. And to me, they're like our background here, if you can see it, it's like codes, like lines of code, right? Like in the Matrix, and it's all this programming stuff. And I read an interesting study the other day about the number of don'ts we told our kids, and it was a research group in Australia that recorded dialogue for like 5 days solid in families' houses. And then they identified the number of phrases of like that don't or negative messages were said. And it was on average, and these were good, healthy families, not families that were struggling. They're families that reported that good, healthy relationships. And on average, it was like 23 negative messages a day of you're clumsy, or you're not good at this, or don't do that, or don't do this. And you think about that and start to do the math on that. That's like, by the time we're 15 or 12 or whatever it is, how many thousands and thousands? I think they said it was like by 18, it was 186,000 or something like that. A lot of messages of messages about ourselves, about what the world is, what we are, and most of them were fear messages. Don't do this, you're going to get hurt. Don't do that because you're going to screw this up. Don't be late for this because that'll be bad. Don't do, and it was all fear. It was all fear-based messages, and so we're walking around projecting those fear-based messages outwards. And this kind of subconscious process that's going on is an irrational process. It's faster than conscious rational thought. I bring in that flashlight, and that's a great thing. Like if you've ever grabbed something hot off out of an oven or on a stove, like the thing is on the ground before you even have a chance to register. You're not like grabbing it. Oh, this is hot. Yes, I should put this down so I don't burn my hand. Great, that's a good idea. There's a counter. Like you set it down, like something takes over in your body, and the thing that's just thrown backwards before you even have time to register that your skin is burning or that it's hot. And so that there's these systems that are running underneath the surface, like these lines of code that are controlling our behavior, right? And so sometimes there's difficulty in this. So why can't I just have this thought and then the change everything down here? Because there's lots of years and decades of these things being built up down here. And that's a great thing. That's a beautiful thing, as Mike gave us a great analogy. Like the body knows when the mind has no reason to. The body knows before the mind knows most of the time. And so to discount that and cut ourselves off from that is also a great tragedy to ourselves. We know a lot more than we give ourselves credit that we know. And sometimes we know before we know why we know.
So before you go past that one, Travis, explain to me, I've been practicing the cold plunge for a while now, which is in that vein of when you get in cold water, typically you jump out because your body is telling you you're going to die.
Right.
And now I can get in that pool that's 48 degrees and I can stay in there for 3 minutes and I don't even panic. I'm not even breathing heavy.
Right.
So I'm, I've overcome that, my body no longer thinks that I'm going to die from that cold water.
Mm-hmm.
But what you said is interesting. That's good because I'm not going to. Is the response still there for the times I'm going to die, right? Or
yes.
am I dulling those senses?
Right.
So where's the line, right?
Right. Yeah. You're teaching the kind of they aren't two parts, but we're kind of talking about it as brain body, and they learn from each other, right? And so you're teaching your body, where is the limit, right? Where is it okay to, where I almost think of it like a puppy dog, right? Like you got a puppy and it just barks at everything, like barks at the mailman every day, barks at the neighbors walking by, barks at a butterfly. And like, it's not that barking is bad, like barking is good, but we don't need the alarms that we don't need. And so it's teaching the system. And a lot of times it's like, bad dog, you're barking. Like barking is bad, don't bark. And that's not it. It's like, no, actually barking is good, but let's teach and train where that line is. So 3 minutes in a cold plunge, are you going to die? No, you're not. And you've taught your nervous system, oh, I can handle 3 minutes. You're in there for 18 minutes or 20 minutes, depending on how cold it is and how strong your system is. Well, then you might start reaching that edge and then it's going to say, get out, right? And this is where I use the terminology like change from the top down or from the bottom up. Right. Sometimes we can learn, and this is top down, like I'm choosing to do this thing despite that. I'm doing it from a logical, rational place, and then change ripples down and my body figures out that, oh, this is okay. And sometimes it goes the other way around of we work on the deep things and then it trickles its way back up.
It does seem to, I mean, it really is empowering mentally. Every one of those things I do that I didn't think I would ever do. And then you get to the point where you enjoy it. Right. It's very empowering, and not only for me, but I see other people that do it a few times. It usually takes 2 or 3 times, but then they're like, oh, you know, they've just got, you know, they've got a lot of capabilities beyond what they had before, and then they can try something else that they're scared of, or that, right, or that their nervous system's scared of, right, or their body, yes, is scared of, right,
yes,
because the brain logic kicks in. So
yes, yeah, absolutely. And you don't want to turn off that alarm completely, right? Like you want it to let you know that this is serious.
Yeah, you don't want to hold on to that pan when it's burning your flesh off, right? You don't want to. So that's what I was asking was, at what point do I go too far to where, you know, my brain is not letting my hand let go of that burning pan?
Right.
I don't think it's possible to get there. I guess I'm asking, is it possible to get there where you're hurting yourself?
I don't really think with cold. I've been ridden that edge quite a few times, and there is a place where you can override yourself so hard that you are no longer listening, and that's like the disconnection that I'm going to be talking about here. There's in airborne school operation stuff, there's like a saying of like, when you're afraid to jump is when you need to stop. I mean, when you're no longer afraid to jump is when you need to stop.
Yeah.
And there's this like healthy fear, which brings respect. Like you're on the edge of a cliff or you're rock climbing or whatever, and there's some fear there. Like, and that's like, yeah, thanks, body. Like you are preparing me, you're ramping me up, you're making my brain operate faster, you're making me take in more sensory input, and you're making me be very aware of the actions that I'm doing. That's a good thing. Like, thank you. The way we interpret those signals as, oh, I'm going to die, I can't take it. Like, and that's like being emotionally hijacked by it. And it's information that we want to take in, like we want to know, just like the puppy dog, right? But it doesn't control the show at the same time. And so we can operate from both places. And, you know, will those base instincts of you actually might die, you know, kick in when they need to kick in? Yes, they will.
The most powerful one I overcame was going towards conflict rather than going away from it. That was a big hang up for me. And I started practicing it years ago. And then, so now I go towards conflict, and it, you know, it's never going to kill me. Right. Which,
right.
that works much better. That was the big life changer for me, is going towards conflict rather than going away from it.
Right. Right. I think that's what we talked about in that first one of like getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it doesn't,
being able to, because the thing I was hard on myself about was not saying, you know, going away from something, saying, man, I should have said that. Why didn't I speak up? Right. So that they were kind of coupled together. being fine with being in conflict, around conflict, and being able to speak my truth during it. And if I do that, even if I don't get an outcome that I like, it's fine, because I voiced what I thought, right? So it was never about winning or losing. It was about me being mad at myself for not saying what I felt like I needed to say.
Yeah, it's you almost not listening to yourself, or you betraying yourself by not.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a little bit of the heart. And if you could take that message now, then awesome. It's all good information, and it's, should your body alert you that conflict may bring conflict? Yes. Elevating you, preparing you, feeling a little bit of nervousness, and like and all these body sensations, which we're going to tap into, are open for interpretation, right? Like I heard a Super Bowl player was like, they got asked, like, do you get nervous? Don't you get nervous before games? He's like, no, I get excited. He's like, well, and if you think about it, like, what's nervous? Like heart rate up, breath rate up, blood's pumping, probably eyes dilated, like a little bit of energy, maybe a little bit of butterflies in your stomach. Okay, what's excited? Heart rate up, breath rate up, blood pumping, a little bit of butterflies in your stomach, a little bit of a little bit of energy flowing through. A lot of it is how we choose to interpret the signals that our body's doing. What our body's doing is recognize that something serious or something important or something of significance is about to happen. And it's ramping us up for it. Like what we choose to do with that, how we choose to interpret that, like that is what changes of, am I going to die, or, oh, cool.
Right.
And when we cut ourselves off from that and we don't listen to that, like you said, it's like, man, I didn't listen to my body saying, hey, speak up, like say something, do something, like move towards that. And it's not about the end result. It's about being in alignment with yourself, being in integrity with yourself, because you can't control what the others do, but you can control how you choose to show up in life. And what I'm hearing from that is like there was a disconnection between who you authentically were in the inside and how you were behaving on the outside, right? And when you chose to merge and integrate with that in a way that's positive and healthy and honoring of yourself and not destructive towards others, in this conflict, then the alignment happened and the energy flowed and things moved. And probably you're, as I'm sure you've discovered, then actually, hey, the conflict wasn't as bad as I thought. The cold water wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. The scary thing wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that was true 100% of the time. It wasn't. And then the more I do it, the more it's just natural.
I think an important thing, since we're on fear, and I think fear is the root of emotions, that courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward in the presence of fear. And I think a lot of times we feel emotions and then we think that means stop or don't do it or whatever. As opposed to, no, it's just your body ramping you up, preparing you for something of significance. Some of, the why, there's definitely a bit of a cowboy and military mentality of like emotions. Those are the things I spend like my life ignoring and trying to get rid of. Like, I'd be so much better without them, right? And in some ways, can you be more functional? Yeah, kind of, sort of. At times, is there times that is the right thing to do? Yeah, definitely. And we'll dive into more of the biology behind it. And the almost optimal way is, can I move forward with them? And that's why I brought in the courage example. It's like, okay, it's like, yeah, can I feel the fear of what I'm going to be about to do and realize that, yeah, this thing is serious, and choose to go do it anyways. Go move towards the conflict as opposed to move away from the conflict, right? And as opposed to completely shut myself down and numb. And that's kind of what alcohol is sometimes, is numbing it, right? So becoming mentally fit means living from both the head, heart, and gut. By becoming aware of our thoughts, emotions, and feelings without suppressing or being hijacked by them, right? And I think that was a bit of your question there, Michael. Like, could I go too far that I, suppress it and I don't feel it? That's not good on the one end. And then, or on the other end, it's totally being hijacked by it. I dip my toe in the water. Oh, it's cold. And I never do it again, right? That's like, there's this optimal space in the middle, like where I can be aware, like, yep, you're right, body, that is cold. This is dangerous. Conflict can bring more conflict or whatever it is. And with that knowledge and information, this is how I'm going to choose to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the optimal. And when we do that, when we get all those in alignment, then, life flows. We move through better. And that's a bit why we're talking about today, or the whys and the purpose behind why we're talking about what we are today. Okay. Let's dive into the biology of emotion. And I'll come back to this quote in here. It's a cool image.
That is cool.
There's a question of like, am I excited? Is this thing like amazing and gorgeous and beautiful, or should I turn and run? Like,
Right.
And I think that is kind of some of the question in there. But I think like the biology is that guy's nervous system's probably pumping, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he's getting to choose what to do with it from there. All right, so the body's response to stress. And when I use the word stress, we might as well just replace it with fear. I think stress is the socially acceptable word. Oh, I'm stressed out because I got so much going on, or I got all these deadlines, or I got all this, or whatever it is. And really, what are we saying underneath that surface? I've got so much going on that I don't know if I can do it. And if I don't do it, oh man, then all these things are going to happen. Right? I'm afraid of this potential outcome in here.
That's fascinating. I'd never heard it put that way, but that's really good.
And when we're using the word fear or stress, it's some sort of perceived threat to our survival, right? And then the next question is like, okay, most of the things that people are stressed out about don't have anything to do with survival. Like, nobody's gonna execute me at the end of the week if I don't get this thing done or whatever it is. At least I don't think so at LNH, but maybe you guys operate differently. So then, or public speaking is a huge fear, and here we are asking people to pop on and share and talk, right? And it's like, oh no, not me. All right, if I ask, sing, anybody want to sing for us? You right there, number 4 on Zoom face. Can you sing a song for us right now? I would feel awful. Like I would feel like I was gonna die, right? But then we go quickly to this feeling like we're gonna die, and most of us aren't dealing with lions and tigers and bears, sort of like our body is designed to combat, essentially. But not totally true though, actually. Most of us are dealing with more of like the social emotional threats and less so like physical threats. So like, how does my body interpret speaking on a Zoom call, or giving a presentation, or screwing up something on a project, like as some sort of threat to my survival? And essentially, we are social creatures. We need each other, like on a practical, realistic level. And I teach wilderness survival. I've spent a whole lot of time alone out in the woods and that sort of stuff. My military background as well, and in search and rescue. And I know one person alone in the woods is not safe. Like, who's got your back when you're sleeping? What happens if you get sick? What happens if you break a leg and you can't get water? Like, on a practical level, like, we need each other. And on a deeper level, like on an emotional level, we need each other. There's studies with primates that if they remove one from the group and give them everything they need, entertainment and food and shelter and all that kind of stuff, always they end up withering away and dying. And I think studies on people of long-term isolation, of landing, crashing on a deserted island, like first you're trying to figure out how to survive, and then you have to figure out why to survive. And I think that second one is worse. And a worst punishment that we do to people is solitary confinement, right? And it's completely alone and isolated, and it is absolute torture. It is horrendous. And so rejection by our peers can, exiled from the group. We're a small band of people trying to survive on the plains of Africa somewhere, and you get exiled from the group. One, your physical likelihood of survival is low, and two, without the group and without that connection that we all need, our chances of survival are low. And even if we figure out how to, we might not want to. And so when a rejection of our peers on a social level is quickly goes from, oh no, if I speak up in this call and people think I'm an idiot, then all these chain of events happen, and our nervous system quickly goes to, and I'll end up alone dying in a desert. Like that's how fast it goes from 0 to 60 here.
Mm-hmm.
And our body's response to stress is not conscious. I'm going to talk about the nervous system for a second. So the nervous system has, think of it as two main branches. There's the stuff that's in my control, right? Like I can say a middle finger wave or wiggle or move my arm under control, but I can't say, okay, heart, slow down. I can't tell my immune system to really kick up because there's a cold coming. Or my digestion to hurry up because I have a meeting and I want to digest my food real quick. Like I don't have control of a lot of things in my body, and our emotional system and our nervous system is one of those. With crazy deep meditation, actually people can control really cool things, and that's where you hear about the monks meditating in the snow and just melting it all around them. And so you can, with great practice and control, but for the most part, no, it's not in our conscious control. We're not choosing. I think our hot oven is an example. Maybe anxiety before you got to give a speech or a presentation or something like that. And the same thing, I'm anxious and I know being anxious will make it worse. So body, don't be anxious. Don't be nervous. I'm like, okay, it doesn't work. And then actually a lot of times recognizing that I'm nervous makes me more nervous, which then becomes this whole downward spiral or fear or whatever it is right there. So, the autonomic, you can think automatic, that's the part of us that we don't have control of. And the somatic is the part that we do have control over. In the autonomic, the part we don't have control over, there's two main modes, and there's actually a little bit more, and we'll get into that detail, but for now, and it's essentially, am I currently safe or am I not safe? That's what it's looking for. I'm safe, I'm in this mode of rest and digest and all that kind of stuff, or am I not safe? And if I'm not safe, my body's ramping me up for whatever it is that's making me unsafe in this moment. If I feel stress, if I feel fear, if I feel any of those things, my body is kind of recognizing some sort of threat. Breathing, if you've worked with me individually and I've given you breath work type of stuff, or if you've done it in the past, is so powerful because it's a bit of the top-down approach. I can't, because breathing lives in both parts of the nervous system. Before we talked about breathing, nobody was thinking about breathing. Nobody was consciously breathing, but we were all doing it, right? And now that we start thinking about it or talking about it, we probably are oh yeah, how am I breathing? Am I breathing shallow? Or we're probably changing our breath a little bit. And so we can take control of our breath, and we can let our body take control of our breath. So it lives in both systems. And so I can't make myself feel calm when I'm anxious, but I can breathe as if I was calm. When I'm anxious, I'm breathing fast, I'm breathing shallow. And I can't change the way I feel, but I can change the way I breathe, and changing the way I breathe changes the way I feel. My body's oh, we're breathing slow. It's that top-down approach in there. And so there's all sorts of really powerful body state changes that you can control through your breath. Through exercise stuff that's really powerful, to deep meditation stuff, to getting through your workday, through stress management stuff, through dealing with difficult things. And it is why I'll bring it in sometimes. But that's what it is. Think of your breath as the gateway to your autonomic nervous system, or the gateway to the subconscious things that you don't have control over.
I used that huff and puff breathing that you sent out before I went to my meeting with TerraPower yesterday morning.
Oh,
and
cool.
It was a total game changer. And you wouldn't think that huff and puff would be pre-meeting, but it just energized and it put me on fire.
Awesome. I'm really glad to hear that. That's great. Yeah, it's It's incredibly powerful. It's been studied for thousands of years, and there's so much ancient wisdom to, hey, this breath with this does this thing, and all sorts of really, really profound things. And the VA, I work with a bunch of veterans and worked with a doctor in there that's really well connected with it, and PTSD. And they studied medication and all these different things, and they figured out that if you do this one breath, like it took care of like 80% of the problems just by doing like 5 minutes of this breathing pattern twice a day, for a period of months. Shifted things, measurable things within their body, like stress hormones in their blood, in their body, like massive biological and physiological changes happened as a result of 5 or 10 minutes of breathing a day.
I completely believe that, and I've used it to regulate my blood pressure. I've got this app called Othership that has a bunch of different breathing, and it's got breathing that puts you to sleep and breathing that runs you up.
Right.
What I found interesting is it doesn't seem to matter. They have the up and the down and do this before a meeting. It doesn't seem that just doing the breathing puts you in a whole different state for your day. I don't need to be too hung up on which one I do. If I just do one of them, it's awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
There's an app for that, as usual, right?
Yes.
Or YouTube has a bunch of free ones if you don't want to pay for the app.
Yeah, Mike, got a question from the audience. What exactly was the name of the app again? How do we spell that?
Othership, OTHERSHIP.
Okay, let's dive into those two different modes. So this is the autonomic nervous system, or the part of your body, your nervous system that you don't have control of. And we talked about there's two main modes, like, is it safe or is it not safe? That's kind of what it's concerned with here. So when you are feeling safe, supported, connected, open, we're like our two zebras here in the grass. They're happy. It's you and your significant other or your friends or your kids hanging out in the park. Everything is good. Everything's taken care of. Everything's great. It's called rest. It's the parasympathetic nervous system. You don't have to get caught up in the words, but if you're you like to, or that's what we're talking about. And so when you're calm and peaceful, is your heart rate up or is your heart rate down? Down, right? Is your breath rate up or your breath rate down? Down, right? Blood pressure down, all that sort of stuff. When you're in this mode, your body is focused on restorative functions, repairing your body, and long-term health. Your digestion works better, or works. Your blood pressure is lower, is down. Your immune system is up and functioning properly. Your body's able to restore and repair, and kind of burnout leads from not spending enough time in this state and spending too much time in the, oh my goodness, there's lions on the horizon state. The more we train this, and a lot of the breathwork stuff is training this, the more we can affect long-term change, not just temporary. And I think that's why I brought the VA study in, because it's like, oh man, so I got to spend all my day paying attention to my breath. Well, on one hand, it's like, well, yeah, you probably kind of should. It's a little bit of an important thing of how you breathe. So spending time on how you breathe is powerful. And no, like spending a little bit of time has long-term effects and changes, not just temporary. So it's associated with feelings of peace, flow, calm, tranquility, social connectedness, flow states, all those things that we talked about. Like, we do our best work when we're in that place. All right, so we're in the other mode. We spot lions on the horizon. Our heart rate is up, right? Our breath rate is up. Our blood pressure is up. Our body is mobilizing all of our resources to deal with an immediate life threat. If you're about to get run over by a truck, digesting your steak, recovering your muscles from that injury, and keeping your immune system up is not the priority. Divert all resources away from any non-essential function of life to pump it to the muscles, pump it to everything else to get the hell out of the way of this truck, because that's all that matters right now. Unfortunately, most of us spend way too much time in this state. And a lot of our modern day diseases are associated with an overactive sympathetic response. If you spend a lot of time feeling stressed, tense, exhausted, nervous, worried, or irritated, you are in a sympathetic state.
You're spending too much time watching CNN or Fox. It's
Yeah.
it's set to get you in that state. That's why so many people nowadays are spun up. They're being fed all of the stuff that scares you, and it feels good for a minute, but then pretty soon you're just scared all the time and you're in that stress. And both are good, but use them in moderation and be able to turn them on when they're useful to you, not
Yes.
when Fox or CNN wants to get your attention and keep your attention, right? So
Right.
a lot of people, including myself, I don't watch that stuff anymore. Matter of fact, I turned it off on my phone. I don't want to know what's going on. If there's something bad enough happening in the world, somebody will come and tell me. I don't need to sit there and obsess about it all day. And a lot of the brilliant people that I hang out with are doing the same thing. Just turn that junk off and control your own life. And neither are good or bad, and you need both. Just you want to be the one choosing which one you're in, and you don't want to be in that stress mode all the time, because it'll put you in the grave early and it'll make you miserable while it's taking you there.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a great book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And we're gonna kind of dive into a little bit more of the biology deeper in here. But you nailed a really great point right there. And one of the underlying principles in there is zebras kick into this system when lions are present, where humans kick into this system when we think about lions. And that's the CNN, right? Like, it's all these things probably aren't ever going to have an effect on your life, or there's something somewhere else in the world. And so we're stressed about all these potential things that could possibly happen, as opposed to preparing ourselves if it does. Like, if it does happen, then kick into that system, right? And I have it in red and in blue, but the red system is not bad. Like, it's great. If you're about to get chased down by a lion, that's exactly where you want to be. You're stepping into cold water. That's a little bit where you want to be, right? Like, you need to be aware. You're about to jump out of a plane. Yeah, you should have your heart rate up and your blood pressure up, and because to be fully alert, fully ready for action for whatever it is. Staying in that state is where the issue is, which is you brought in CNN, right? If we work all day and then come home and sit there and watch the news and we see all these bad things and we're kept in this state as well, then we're in this constant state. And then probably burnout and stress and exhaustion is one of the things I hear about most, like all the time. And we're all feeling that way, and it's because we're outputting too much and not inputting. I want to dive into this for a moment, of a little bit of where emotions come from, or maybe how this cycle works in conjunction with some of the other things that we talked about, like some of the past patterns and experiences and how that kicks up right now. So homeostasis just means at rest or at peace, or your system in balance, probably in that sympathetic nervous system. Something happens that triggers us in there. We hear something on the news. We see movement off in the distance and we're alerted to it. Somebody says something, a noise happens, right? And then we go into pattern matching. Like, what is that? When someone's getting angry or says this thing, then it goes into that. Or we see movement off in the distance. Is that a lion or is that another zebra? Right? We match it to patterns of the past. A dog comes running towards us. Like, what are my experiences of dogs? Oh, dogs are great. Like, it's going to kick up one emotion. Oh, dogs are not great because the last one bit me. Another emotion is going to come up. And this is a little bit about, it's not about the things that happen to us. It's about how we interpret the things that happen to us. The emotion is designed to eliminate the threat, right? Some reaction or defense. Someone says a rude comment to me. I respond with anger and a big rude comment. Or I respond by shutting down and making myself small. Or I respond by turning and leaving, right? Like, it's an emotion designed to react to that problem, or react to that perceived problem. And there's a little bit of like, okay, when things are not operating the way we would like them to, there's different ways to work through this system. We can catch ourselves at the emotion. You know, someone says something, it reacts, I get anger, and a lot of times we don't catch ourselves until we've already done the thing, right? And the sooner we catch ourselves in this cycle or become aware of that this cycle is happening, the earlier we can interrupt it, right? It might be at the reaction defense stage. If I said the dumb thing that I didn't want to say and I hurt somebody's feelings, and now I'm like, oh, I just did that. Okay, now I've got to backpedal, right? Then we can catch ourselves in the state of the emotion of like, oh, I'm really angry right now, or I'm feeling this thing right now, and I don't want to make a decision here. I don't want to do anything here. So I recognize that this is the current state I'm in, and I can take a step back. I can go breathe. I can do whatever it is I want to do, or whatever it is that helps me get to a better state before I make a reaction. Right? When we can go a step back of like, I'm being triggered by this thing, or I'm being, pattern matching this thing, or even further back is like, this is kind of the top down versus the bottom up, or that I've eliminated these patterns of the past. I've changed these subconscious patterns. I've written new experiences. That's a bit of a cold, right? I've now, like, it used to be, I step in, I get cold, my body says, oh, I'm going to die. And then I override it and I stay in anyways, and I don't die, and it goes back. And now I step in and it's no longer a trigger. Like, my body doesn't even tell me I'm going to die, because I've had this experience so many times that I know that I'm not going to die. And so I'm no longer even triggered by this thing in the first place. And so this is a bit of the awareness, mindfulness of like catching yourselves at different places in here. And I think this is a great quote by Marcus Aurelius here. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. But I think this is realizing that your reaction, emotion is an interpretation of it, probably based on the past, not necessarily based on this current moment. And it's not the thing. And Mike, you gave us a great example in there of the conflict and moving towards it. It's like, well, will this resolve the conflict? It's like, it's not even actually the conflict, it's me, and it's me being it. And what you have the power to do is speak what's right to you and speak the things that you need to speak, and what happens outside doesn't matter. This is like owning the things that we have control over and letting go of the things that we don't. And I think this is partly of facing the lions that are in front of us and not worrying about the lions that aren't, right? Because as human beings, zebras almost get eaten by a lion twice a week, right? We saw a lion once and we got nightmares and PTSD for the next 6 years, right? Like, that's part of the difference. And there's also more into it that we'll dive into next, about getting out of the way of the emotional process, allowing emotions to flow. This isn't saying do whatever the emotions tell you to do, right? But this isn't don't suppress them, to go through a level of understanding of what is going on underneath the surface.
Just wanted to mention that Marcus Aurelius seems like kind of a mental fitness genius from 2000 years ago, doesn't he? Wasn't he about 2000 years ago?
Yeah, that sounds about right to me. Yeah.
So if anybody wants more information, and he was a very humble person, but he really had this stuff figured out. So read some of Marcus Aurelius's stuff, and you can see how a lot of this wisdom is truly ancient.
The more I've do this work and dive into all the different cultures, and it's like, yeah, they had things figured out a long time ago, and they do, and I think it's this continual rediscovery. But there's beautiful ancient wisdom in there, and I think there's also something important that he was writing this all down in his own private journal. It was for him. There's a level of he was a genius, and he struggled with the same things that we struggle with. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have been writing about it. And this is ways he figured out that was helpful to him.
Yeah. So we're all on this journey, and I don't know about you guys, but I've had to relearn things a few times myself. But people before that were relearning. We've been relearning the same things forever. And these things we're talking about have always worked. It's the human condition, I guess.
That's the way I see it.
But we need to keep learning them. And then to your earlier point, it's practice. It's not perfection. it's practice. You're going to practice some of this stuff, and then you're going to remember something somebody told you 5 years ago that you're going to beat yourself up for not remembering it. And then that's fine. Just start it now.
Right.
And your kids will forget this stuff too, and they'll have to re-find it or not.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, most people don't find it. They don't, even though it's written everywhere in every different way and it's accessible. That's what you'll notice as you get better and better with your mental fitness and you strengthen that muscle. You're going to notice how shockingly rare it is for people to practice these things, and that'll bother you for a little while until you get mentally fit enough to say it's okay, no judgment. They don't have to, they're just not ready to. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Marcus Aurelius, check him out, he's phenomenal.
Yeah, I think the key message in the quote is we look externally, and if we could just fix the external, then internally I could feel good. And I think it goes the other way around.
Right, for sure, it's the other way around. Yeah.
Okay, one more science bit here, and then we'll move past this here. This is one more look deeper into the physiological process. And there's a couple key takeaways that I'll give you up front that I think you could take from it. And then I'll talk about them in the end as well. I think the major thing is to understand that what your body is doing makes sense. Like almost everything, even the things that I'm going to say aren't necessarily good. Like there's a reason all of these tools exist. It's like going through the toolbox and you're like, well, why is this thing? Is it like there's a reason? And the problem comes when the hammer is stuck in our hand and that's the only tool we know how to use. And we're trying to apply the wrong tool at the wrong time. And I'm sharing some of this here to let you understand, like, emotions aren't something to be like discarded or discounted or an old outdated system that doesn't make sense anymore or anything like that. Like it's beautiful. It makes sense in almost every way for every range of emotion. And the key is to be able to step back out of it and to think of it as it's energy guided towards a direction. Like it's moving you towards a direction or for one way or another, and it's trying to help you survive. The problem is some of these things it's trying to help you survive something that's not going to kill you, right? I'm overreacting because someone said they don't like my hair, and I'm taking it as this life-threatening insult because, right, and that is the problem, and not the emotion in there, and even in those moments where we are overreacting. We are reacting to something. They are always signposts and guides that are pointing to the thing in you that needs attention. That might be the word I say. Mm-hmm. That as a place of growth for you, mm-hmm. is a place that needs your awareness. The quote here, even though we may not always be aware of danger on a cognitive level, on a neurophysiological level, on a body level, our body has already started a sequence of neural processes that would facilitate adaptive defense behaviors such as fight, flight, or freeze. So this is part of the connecting into your body as opposed to disconnecting. In Western culture, like we value here, not so much here, right? Like call it like the tyranny of reason. Like we're all stuck up here, and there's great things to that, but it's just like our tools again. Like they're all important. And Mike gave us that great example of head, heart, and gut. Like sometimes I don't know why it seems like a good thing on the surface, but it just doesn't feel right. And Mike's said in his experience, and it's like he listens to that. Like it maybe not 100%, but he takes that into account and maybe says pause, like something's going on in here.
And just full disclosure, I didn't until 5 or 10 years ago, and I was back in my head for most of my life. And as soon as I started listening to my heart and gut, man, things are easier, and I'm way better at life. I'm way better at my job. It matters. It was a game changer. But I did spend a majority of my life, going back to the head and letting it win every time. And it was much harder. The head, heart, and gut is a lot easier, a lot more natural. Just
right.
And it's also more responsive. It's
Yes.
you don't have to show up knowing exactly how this is going to work. You just know it's going to work, and
Right.
you're gonna, and that's how you drop into flow too. By the way, you can't be in flow and be in your head. The only way you can be in flow is if you're flowing, which is head, heart, and gut.
Right.
And I'm also not saying the head doesn't matter. You need to practice. You need to be very practiced and good at things in order to be in flow. So that does matter, because some people hear that and they're like, oh, you're discounting all of the practice and all of the education I have. Nope, not at all. You need that as well. Part of the muscle memory is the things you've learned and the things you've studied.
Yeah, I view it as like, well, which sense should I use? My sight or my vision or my hearing? Like, tell me which one's the best. And I just use that one, right? It's like, you use all of them. Like, why would you not? Like, they're all powerful. Well, which one's the best though? Like, they all give you different information. That's kind of the way I see it.
They're all
Okay,
good. If you have them all, you might as well use them all. And
right.
There's no, you're not trying to achieve one or the other. You're trying to balance. It's balance, right? And all these things,
Yes.
are to balance it and be able to pull out the one you need, pull out the screwdriver when you need that, or the hammer when you need that.
Right. Which a bit goes back to our fitness example of the guy that just does bicep curls, right? But ignores his legs or whatever else. It's like, yeah, whole health, real fitness is working all the systems, using it to its fullest. So no matter what the situation is that you come across, you can do it. You need to run long distances, great. You can run long distance. You need to pick up heavy stuff, great. You can pick up heavy stuff. Like you're a full, complete human being. And I actually might, title this like being fully human is really actually probably what we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's go through a little mind example, because I'm going to show you a chart that's going to have a whole bunch of stuff, but I think it's helpful to go through it at first. If anybody's been out in the woods, if we got a deer walking through the woods or a zebra walking across the plains or whatever it is, and it hears a noise, what's the first thing that it does?
Freeze.
Yeah, freezes. Great. Why does it freeze?
To look and listen, right? It wants to figure out where this noise came from.
Right. Beautiful.
It can't be making any noise itself, or it can't identify where the threat is.
Nice, you got it. Right, there it is. There's two things. The first thing is freeze, because maybe it hasn't seen me yet. Maybe I saw it before it saw me. Maybe if I just hold real still, it'll just walk on by me. So, first rule is don't make it worse. The second is exactly what you said there, of like, what is that noise? So like freeze and then pattern match. It goes back to our chart here before. Trigger was our stick breaking, it heard a noise, and then it freezes and then it pattern matches. What is that thing? Is that thing, oh, it's just a rabbit. Okay, good, I can move on, right? Or nope, it's a lion. So it spots a lion and the lion spots it. What's the next thing that it does? Or, well, it's got two options, right? We move into our red zone here, and probably everybody knows this, fight or flight, right? And we've got a couple emotional ranges in there. It's either, on the flight side, it's fear, it's anxiety, it's all those things that like move away, and all these things are move away from the danger. It's energy to get you away from the danger. On the other side, fight is anger, frustration, irritation. And what's that one, right? What's that? What's those emotions driving you towards? Move to the danger, right? To take care of it. Go swat that fly, go stomp out that problem, go attack that lion to eliminate the threat. These both have a commonality in them. There's two things in here. If you're either afraid or you're angry and moving towards something, is your heart rate up or is your heart rate down? Up, right? Yeah. Your breath rate's up. Your body is mobilizing you for action. And there's also a level of hope of, I can do something. I can do something about that. There's hope because I can still get away, or maybe I can go fight this thing and take care of it, right? So my body prepares me and gears me up the same way on that red chart. The sympathetic nervous system activates right here. And then it either guides me towards or it guides me away from it. Okay, so I'm a deer. I'm not going to be able to fight this thing. So I'm going to have to run, right? And I run and I run and it sees me and it's chasing me. And eventually this thing's faster than me. It leaps out. It hooks me with its claws. It brings me down to the ground. It completely pins me where I have no hope of escape. What's my best survival strategy now? If I am being torn apart by a lion's claws, do I want my blood pressure up?
No.
What's going to happen if my blood pressure's up and an artery gets torn? I'm going to bleed out really fast. So I want my blood pressure down. I want my heart rate down. I want my breath rate down. Do I really want to be present in this moment and feel everything that's going on? Or do I want to numb? Do I want to go mentally somewhere else? Do I want to check out? Do I want to disassociate? It's also conservation of energy. It's hopeless. There's no point. There's nothing I can do. Save your energy. And it's also a bit of, it's hopeless. There's nothing I can do. Why even get out of freaking bed this morning? Like, there's nothing I can do. I've tried and I've tried and I've tried, and I can't see any way out of this thing. Why even get out of bed? Right? It's depression. It's in the common factor in here is hopelessness, shutdown, conservation of energy, because there's nothing for me to do in here. It's also apathy. And it makes sense, right? Biologically, that all makes sense. If there's nothing to do, why am I going to spend my energy doing something? And actually what they do is they kind of play dead. Like, they go into this partly dead, disassociated state because maybe the lion forgets about me. And it does happen. It thinks it's got this one, so it runs off at another one, or it waits until it's not paying attention, then boom, the zebra pops up and takes off, right? Like, it's waiting for its moment. And that's a beautiful thing. And if this is the last moment and it is truly hopeless and truly dying, like preparing for death, like disconnecting my soul from my body. And that's, I'm using it as a metaphorical term, but I think it's a little bit of a literal term here as well. And I think people that are walking around in depression are like disconnected from their own selves. Like, they are slightly not there. They are numb, they're dissociated, they're depressed, they're in here. And there's an interesting thing that happens here. I don't know if you could see it on the chart, but our green and our red is our green and our red states before, right? Our green state was our parasympathetic. And you see the word in there, they didn't use the word safe, they use social engagement, because being with others is safe and being alone is not safe. And also the words in there is like joy in the present, like in the present moment. I'm not thinking about the future. I'm just right here. This is you with your friends. Everything is good. Like, why would we need to worry about anything else? Because it's great right here. Like, the future thinking stuff, which is, we might get into brain states later, is always like trying to solve a problem, right? And this is a bit about I'm never joyful and never happy because I'm always worried about the next thing, because I'm always seeing lions on when do I ever get to celebrate with my tribe? Because there's always lions on the horizon. So I'm always planning for the next horizon. And this is where, I work to get to this amount, to this amount, to that amount, to that amount, to retire and die. And where was I supposed to enjoy my life? Like, why am I always moving to the next thing? This is like, I'm connected, I'm safe, oriented environment, curiosity, openness, compassion, mindfulness in there, right? And then the thing that moves us out of there is like something got triggered, something on the horizon or in my thoughts made me feel unsafe. And I had these two movements. I can fight or I can run. And then the final one is freeze. And the thing that I want to point out to you here is that the green on the bottom was a parasympathetic response, right? And then the red was the sympathetic response. The blue, if you can read it, and if you can't, it's another version of parasympathetic response, or it mimics a parasympathetic response. To me, I call it the land of, it's fine. I'm fine. We're not. We're just so hopeless and shut down from our own selves that we can't even express that it's not okay. And there's a level of like, man, a couple that's fighting together, that's a great thing. Like, it means they both care. It means they both see hope. It means they both see that this thing is worth investing energy into. The couple that's like, yeah, whatever, I don't care anymore. Like, that's the level of like, it's so hopeless. I've tried so many times that it's not even worth putting my energy into. And I think a lot of us get stuck up in that blue zone up there, thinking we're fine.
So Travis,
Yeah.
quick question. So being in the free zone, it's never healthy, or maybe for a few minutes?
Yeah. Great. Good question. If I'm in the middle of I'm in combat or something like that, and my buddy next to me gets killed or shot, like that's probably not the moment to sit there and feel and fully grieve that thing. It's probably the time to just grab him, keep fighting, and move on. Right. And that's a beautiful thing to do. I got to speak with, listen to a guy that was in Afghanistan after the withdrawal or during the withdrawal. And he talked about having to go past the lines to go get people and try to get him out there, and the horrors that he witnessed of, I won't go into details of it, but the most horrendous things that you could possibly imagine happening everywhere on every street corner. It's like, if I would have been able to, if I would have soaked that in and really like been present and mindful and like and felt the reality of that, he said I would have broken down into pieces right then from the horrors that he was seeing. And so his body went into this like numbed, like numb, just that, like everything else doesn't matter, right? And that was a beautiful functional state for him to be able to do that in, and it allowed him to do great good. When you get back to base or safety or family or whatever, that is the time that you have to let go and unload and feel, and grief comes to mind in this, right? Like there's a process, an emotional process we have to go through. And the other answer to the why zebras don't get ulcers, like they almost get eaten by a lion and then they're saved, they make it somehow. They will collapse on the ground and like tremor, like literally tremor. And it's where our term shake it off comes from. Like they are literally like shaking through, and there's this like emotional process that needs to flow through our body that we have to allow. But you can't do that in the midst of a lion, right? You can't cry when you're in the middle of a threat, but if you don't find the place where you don't have that safety, then you get stuck. You get frozen in that numb state moving forward. So is it a bad state? No, it's a beautiful state. I worked with a woman that suffered a horrific sexual abuse for days. And this was how she made it through. Like, they have my body and disconnected from her own body, but went to this own place in her mind. And a lot of the special forces training stuff I did too is like, it's the same thing. Like you are in absolute horrendous misery, but you can go somewhere in your mind. And I think it's part of Viktor Frankl and Man's Search for Meaning thing of like, nobody can take that from me. Like I can still choose my own state, even when I have zero control, even over my body, I still have a choice. So is it bad? No. And it's an emergency state that's meant to help us through an emergency, not a place to live. This is, to me, none of them are good, none of them are bad. This is nowhere near where you're at, knowing what's going. This is information in here.
I think the more time you spend in that social engagement, the green zone there, the more prepared you are for the red zone. And I think about one thing Dan Sullivan talks about is the freedoms, and the freedom of purpose, freedom of relationships, freedom of time, and freedom of money. And if you're gathering those up, and you're going to be in that green zone when you have those. But it would get boring if you were just in that, right? So you're going to put yourself in that other zone, and you're going to go out and slay the dragon, and then you're going to come back. But I think we are building and helping each other at LNH build these freedoms of purpose, relationships, time, and money. And then if you're doing that, and you've got the relationships you want, and you have the purpose you want, you're not going to be wanting to leave. You're going to want to stay in that. And I think that's what we're creating. That's what we're creating at LNH. That's what we're creating with our mission, vision, values. That's why we're attracting like-minded people, and then dropping people into unique ability and eventually flow. Just enhances that. So it's a stacked deck of how we do it, but we know how to do this, and that's part of what we're working on here to stay in that that happy place.
Right.
Then as soon as you have that, and you've had enough of that, you're going to want to go slay the dragon and get into the red zone for a while, and it's going to be fun. You're going to be excited about it, because you return back to the green zone. That's why you're excited about it, because you're going to go out there and there's a choice. You can come back.
Right.
If you don't know there's a choice, or you don't have a choice, which some people don't, then they just wear themselves out, stress themselves out.
Yeah.
They're afraid all the time.
Right. I think there's something to a lot of times we think we need to switch ourselves to the red zone to have a conversation. Like, it becomes conflict, as opposed to, hey, maybe I can pull this person in with me. Like, maybe we can do this through joy and connection, as opposed to fight and combat and who wins. There's a major pivotal switch in my life where I had some stuff in my body the VA was concerned with, and I figured out some of the ways I was orienting myself to my life. I viewed everything from this, red zone, everything's a fight, and figured out it was killing me. And slowly undid of oh, maybe I don't have to go to that place in order to accomplish this. Oh, maybe I don't have to do that. And had this incredible journey, which maybe I'll share at another time, of finally actually being confronted by a bear and figuring out that I can actually move through an angry bear with joy and presentness and compassion and love, as opposed to having to go to a place of fight. And if I could deal with an angry bear from a place of centeredness and groundness and compassion, then what's my excuse with an email or a meeting or whatever it is? Right.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, we'll hit. We'll kind of go quickly through some of these here. So there's some what's the value? What's the importance of emotions? When we disconnect from our own intuition, our emotions, we disconnect from ourselves, our intuition, and our own survival. And there's a key part of that in that, actually, our emotions are a survival mechanism. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been brought through with us. Like that hair that stands up on the back of your neck, you don't have any logical reason. You didn't see it, but it's there. And if you are operating out in the wilderness, and you don't have that intuition, you're not connected in with that instinct, you're in trouble. We can't live from intellect alone. And there's something about being our authentic selves. And I think that's what you were touching on in the beginning, Mike, about I need to speak up for me, even if nobody else hears it. I need to be authentic to me. I want you to think about emotion as just energy and motion, energy with a direction towards it. And just looking at what is this guiding me toward? Is it guiding me towards? Is it guiding me away? Why do I feel the need to move away from this? Or why do I feel the need to attack this thing, or whatever it is? And that a lot of our perceptions of emotions come from a family or society. Anger is bad, right? Sadness is okay, but anger is not. Or no, anger is okay, because we get anger, but crying, no. Sad, get over it. Come on, and a lot of that is just it's all just tools, and it's all things, and it's all has this purpose. Is it safe or is it not safe to express emotion, to feel emotion? And I think we talked about like the ideal here is I think it's the fear on both sides of like, I will either get completely overwhelmed and hijacked by it. And if I do what my emotions say, there's going to be problems, right? Or so completely suppress them and disconnect from them. And the place is in that middle, right? How do I find that middle zone where I'm aware of them? How do we notice anger within us without becoming angry or about being overwhelmed with anger, right? How do I notice fear and recognize it? I'm like, oh, I'm feeling fear here. Yeah, that makes sense. That's the big dragon over there. Okay, great. Thank you, body, for alerting me to this thing here. Now, what do I want to do with that, right? And the opposite is I'm a blind idiot with no instincts and no emotion that I just charge into things. And then everyone's like, well, how did you not notice this? Well, because I've got my blinders on to my own emotions and my own feelings, right? It's I'm walking around without my hearing or without my vision. The opposite is I'm the only thing that matters and my emotions are the only ones that matters and they're right. Right? They're probably wrong. They're probably the person that said that probably didn't intend any of the things that you're feeling or whatever it is, right? So the place is just to be aware of it, not to reject it, not to fully, buy into it or that, but to just know what it is. It's information. Just like you're hearing. If you hear something, you turn around to look. You don't be like, I didn't hear anything. Nope, didn't hear anything here. But you also don't like hear something and then immediately go do it. You hear and then you confirm. All right. It's head, heart, and gut. Also, the best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart, by Helen Keller. I think it is what makes the world worth living. And it was the thing that makes the suffering worth doing for is all these things in here. Because logically, hey, we're all going to die. What's the point of anything? Okay, cool. Game over. We're done. Right. So it doesn't logically make any sense to even live because we know we don't. Or maybe there's more than just that. I touched on this a little bit on the sympathetic nervous system, like dis-ease in the body leads to disease in the body. If you look at it from like a Qigong or Chinese medicine standpoint, like places of stuck or blocked emotions or energy like is the cause of a lot of the diseases and things that we have. And you think of dis-ease as just tension. But where are you carrying tension in your body? And tension is energy that is not flowing or not in balance. There's a strong correlation between the emotional patterns we practice and the physical ailments we suffer from. Like a car whose brakes keep wearing out, we wear our body out. And there's a great book, I don't have too much time to get into it, called The Body Keeps the Score, on how we may disconnect it from in our head, but it ends up showing up in our body. And there's really powerful and interesting things in there. That's all I'll say for now. So health. Yeah, health is it. I think you can see it. Like when I trained a physical capacity, I could tell what somebody does. Oh, you must be an electrician because your fingertips are always worn down, or you're a mechanic because you have this, or you do, like you can tell like what someone does, through their body. And there's also, I think you can tell the way someone lives through the things that flow in them. And the way that they are, the way that they approach life. Do they have smile wrinkles or frown wrinkles? Like, that's an obvious, easy example, but I think there's internal stuff in there as well. And man, absolutely mind-blowing to me is coming from like the Chinese medicine perspective and the ancient wisdom essentially that they have, like, oh, gallbladder stuff. Yeah, that's this weird way of being or thinking or whatever, like things that you would never even think about that show up in the body in the emotional patterns that are behind that. Okay. And kind of on that practical survival instinct, another book that's interesting is called The Gift of Fear. And it's all about people in survival in violent encounters, and that he studied violent encounters for a long time and how people survive or don't survive. And this is a bit of the we know why before we know why we know. And that listening to those other things, and that the most people that did not survive or didn't get through them without great harm usually knew something bad was going to happen, and they didn't listen to it. You know, there's an elevator or an Uber driver or whatever it is, or an alleyway. There's like, you know what, I just don't have a good feeling about this. And they listened, you know, and then they popped, and oh, then they figure out on the news later on that, oh man, I just saved my own life from that, versus like, what? There's no reason to feel that way. I can't think of, yeah, it's perfectly safe. You know, why would I must just be crazy or whatever it is. And they don't listen to it, and then things happen. And I think when we separate ourselves from our intuition, we suppress a part of ourselves that is critical to our own survival. Allow your body and emotions to inform you without overtaking, and the energy of life will flow. One of the quotes from the book is, intuition is always right in at least two important ways. It is always in response to something, and it always has your best interest at heart. So it's saying that if you feel something, it means that there's something there. It doesn't mean that whatever the thing you're feeling is the thing, but it means that there's something there. And whatever it's telling you has your best interest at heart. It's just like I brought in the alcohol, all right? Like alcohol is your best interest in your heart. It doesn't want you to feel pain. It doesn't mean in the big picture it's in your best interest, but in that thing it's telling you, it's moving you towards a direction, right? And so being able to dive underneath the surface of what are the things that I'm trying to get from this thing, and is that the right answer? And listening to that instinct, that intuition, those gut feelings. And those disappear when we are in that blue zone, when we disconnect from our own experiences, emotions, don't acknowledge them, don't allow them. And when we start to tap into those, as Mike has given us great examples, beautiful things happen. Like things start to move. We start having all this information that we didn't know we had.
And that intuition works both ways. It works on the negative, like I don't know why this is scaring me, but I shouldn't do it. It's powerful there. It's just as powerful on the it's, you know, my intuition's telling me to do this. I see a lot of people doubt the intuition when it's obvious that they should do it, and they doubt it and they don't go forward on something that their intuition's telling them they should do. So it works both sides. It works when the hair stands up and, oh, that feels dangerous, or this feels wonderful, but I'm going to talk myself out of doing it because I don't know why it feels wonderful, right?
I put on here, acceptance is the path to change. And acceptance is just accepting what is. I feel fear right now. Okay, that's what I feel. I feel this. Okay, that's what I feel. I'm moving it, and just allowing it. And I think there's a great another old person quote from the Tao Te Ching in here, from Lao Tzu. If you want to shrink something, you must first allow it to expand. If you want to get rid of something, you must first allow it to flourish. If you want to take something, you must first allow it to be given. This is called the subtle perception of the way things are. The soft overcomes the hard, the slow overcomes the fast. I see this a lot in the rejection of ourselves, or in shame. Shame was on their blues chart. Like, we feel something, but no, I don't feel that because it's not acceptable to feel that. So boom, I'm blocking that out and I don't feel that. And it doesn't allow us to move through it. It hides it from our own selves. It blocks us from it, as opposed to, I am feeling that. Okay. All right, like I need to allow this thing to move through. It's kind of like a problem, right? A problem in a factory process. What? There's no problem here? No, it's just fine. It's just fine. Keep the machine running. As opposed to, no, we got a problem here. Okay, let's shut it down. Let's look at this. Let's talk about it. Let's bring it out in the open. Like, the solution to the problem is bring it, give it space to fill up. Like, allow it to come up. Like, talk about it. Allow it to be a thing. Don't shove it and pretend it's not there. And I think we do that a lot in our internal selves. And this is part of the whole guide thing. This is the one-on-one thing. This is the coaching thing, because it's real easy when we only have to fool ourselves to be able to, like, nope, I didn't see that. Nope. Nobody else heard it. Good. I didn't hear it either. Move on. Right. I had this funny thought moment when when I really started getting into like deep meditation and my own thoughts and feelings. I had this thought and my feeling about my sons, and I love my sons more than anything in the world. And they are my reason for being, one of my reasons for being. And I had a thought about my son. It was like, oh, like, I was like, he's such an idiot and this and that. And I was like, I don't think that. Like, no, I don't think that. And then I set a stop for a second. I was like, whew, okay. Yeah, who just thought that if you don't think that? It was like, Right. You know, and that would have been my old way of, I don't think that. No. This is the way I think. This is the way I feel. And I'll move forward. And I do. And me saying, I do feel that way. Oh, wow. I do. Like, allowed me to work through it. Allowed me to figure out what it was that I was actually feeling and where it was coming from, and have conversations like I think Ryan brought in earlier, like, and I though bringing the awareness of this thing allowed me to have the conversation about it, like the problem on the assembly line or whatever it is, and then I bring it out as opposed to cram it in. Let it expand. Let this horrible thing that we don't like, this thought that we don't want to have, expand. Give it space to breathe, to room, to say what it needs to say. And then move through it from there. Yeah, emotions are simply bodily sensations. They're not facts, they're feelings. And it's how we interpret those signals that matter. Breathe to shift, right? We talked about, you know, you feel yourself caught, just stop and breathe sometimes. Just slow down your breath. Language matters. It changes how we feel, how we describe something to ourselves, to others. Having appreciation, compassion, and understanding for whatever it is you're feeling as if you were a young child. We talked about that. Maybe we might have a whole talk on resilience later. I consider like lessons from like special forces training and resilience and that kind of stuff. So I might save that one for another time. Yeah, and I think the overall message is like, allow the anger without becoming angry. Allow the feeling without it be overwhelming you. Is like the middle ground in here. And I think we talked about this last time, like owning our emotions, right? And knowing how to talk about emotions. We talked about that last time. It's like, it's not you that's making me feel this way. Well, except for when I'm angry, then it is your fault and you made me feel this way, right? It's me that's feeling this way. And I can talk about why I feel this way and what's going on with you and being about that. Cool. That's it. I know we're out of time, but if anybody's got questions, I'm willing to hang out. And if not, then I hope you all have an amazing day. Thank you for giving me your time to share and talk here. And I look forward to connecting one-on-one with everybody when you have time.
Thank you very much, Travis. That was awesome. Thanks, Paul, for putting it together. And the audio, the video is amazing, and the audio today. And everybody for showing up and participating. That's what it's all about. And we're changing our lives here and changing LNH, and it's awesome. Just a reminder, Travis did agree to, you know, he's basically our LNH mental fitness guide, and we've taken the cap off of the 5 sessions. So just keep working with them and improve whatever you want to improve. And also your significant other or your kids are welcome. So if that helps, bring your loved ones in as well. We'll keep doing these. These are great, and we're sending them out. And that, you know, that's all some people want. And then those that want more, you know, get hooked up with our LNH guide for mental fitness.
All right.